Hey, welcome to this episode. I'm going to start over on the driver side of focusing on the rear quarter. I finished off the passenger side last time, and I replaced, if you watch that episode, basically almost the whole thing up to about here. What I decided to do on this one is go ahead and start taking off paint and figuring out what actually is rusty and what's not. And actually this side is much better. I've obviously got a little spot here, but I knew I was going to have to replace this anyway. This was all covered in body filler, and so, but the rust is really only down to here. I think it's pretty rusty right here too. That's coming through on both sides, so that would be a challenging repair to make. But to be honest, I don't know if I want to spend all the money to replace this whole thing when really all what's bad is the bottom parts. I do know they make a panel that goes here, so I can look at that, or I could just look at welding in my own pieces and go that route too. But I definitely am not going to do what I did on the other side. The other side was rusty all the way up in here in the lip, and this is not the case for this one. So that's going to save me some money. Don't know if it's going to necessarily save me some time. So I'm going to go ahead and finish cleaning this off and kind of get a game plan from there. And we'll see what happens. Keep in mind on here that there's kind of an outer skin, there's also an inner skin, and of course both of those are rusted. So I mean, I'd have to be able to cut this up far enough to get to the inner part of it too, because I'd want to replace it as well. All in all, it's still not as bad as the other side. It's definitely not worth replacing the whole rear quarter panel. Honestly, it's not like you're saving yourself work, because putting that panel in takes some time. I think that pretty much clears it out, at least for right here. You can see, I mean, it's definitely eaten away, but I probably could cut right here and stay out of this lip and just go straight across. Try to replace the inner part of it. And yeah, I probably could flip it over and see how far up it goes, but because I can feel it on the back side. But I think it's worth just cutting just enough to take what's rusty out and then kind of assess it from there. So This part's still good. I mean, maybe I hate to lose that lip just because the shape's already there. Maybe I just cut it down. I don't know. Always cut less first because you can always cut more later, right? Okay, so I just went ahead and cut the front panel out. I mean, I can square it up later, which I would. I would try to make it as straight as I possibly can because it's just easier to get a piece to match up to it. So the question becomes, what do I do with this? Because I could replace that piece with this piece right here. And I have done that before on the other side. I don't know how easy it'll be to get to it though by not taking the whole quarter panel off. And honestly, all this, I mean, it's gotta need some help right here, but all this is actually pretty solid. So what I'm wondering is, do I just try to cut it across, clean it up, cut my own piece to weld in there, or is this just so pitted it's gonna just blow out? I don't know. I think it's worth a shot. I think it's worth a try. I mean, I could cut this panel all the way up into here. That allows me to get to that, but honestly, like, I just wonder if I could just cut along this edge right here. I wonder if there's a solid enough that I could weld if I cut a piece to fit in there. This piece is actually fairly solid, this little curve. I like the fact that this edge is still good. And honestly, this edge is good. I know that seems weird because you have all of this and it's gonna be really hard to weld to, but maybe you just cut it straight down and put a whole new piece in, or maybe you try to attach to this. This actually wouldn't be that hard to get. I don't know, I have to put some thought into it. Okay, I flipped the car over and I sat and fiddled around with, here's the piece right here. You know, it was up here and I fiddled around with trying to keep it, and honestly, there was no way I was gonna separate all that. It just wasn't worth it. It was taking way too much time. It'd be faster just to reproduce the piece. So I just cut it off because I know I'm gonna have to cut this all the way over anyway because I've gotta be able to repair this whole inner part. Gotta get to the inner part because you gotta repair that. Then you can focus on the outer skin of it. So I just made the decision to cut it off, and I'll start, still got to clean it off over here and figure out what's got to be rebuilt, and then I'll just go from there. Okay, I've been working on it a little bit this morning, try to just cut away and get to some clean metal, which again, I think I could replace this closeout panel with a brand new one, but it's like $45. So I think I need to clean it all up. Obviously, treat the rust, and then start figuring out, I'll have to get this piece right here first, which kind of comes out to a cone. That'll take some time, and then just figure out how this piece curves up. Probably gonna have to do something about this because it's, as you can see, it's pretty rusty. I'm contemplating, do I just cut all the way across here and do this whole curve? I don't know. Maybe I can just cut it right here, and just weld in a piece and just treat all this inside part of it for rust. I may try that first, but yeah, it cleaned up better than I thought, and I think I can create the piece and weld it in there. Well, I was researching online and I'm contemplating, is it just easier to just buy the closeout panel and buy the piece? I know I keep wrestling through this. With shipping, those two pieces are going to cost me $150. And I know what you're thinking. What's another $150 when I've already sunk a ton of money in the car already? That is a fair argument. I knew going into this that I would have more money in the car. That wasn't the point. The point was I wanted to challenge myself and see if I could do the body work on the car and learn. And so I could buy those pieces, and I might still, but I'm thinking, do I at least try to make my own first? And what I can do is trace the other side, because I already have those. Those are actually in place, and those were panels that I bought. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. Before I do any more cleaning of this thing up, I think I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can make the panels to go in there. And if I can, and I have the panels made, then I can go into cleaning all of it. But if it's just too frustrating or it takes too much time, then there's no sense in spending time cleaning up this closeout panel if I'm basically gonna just drill it out and take it out. So this morning, I'm gonna focus on seeing if I can make the patch panels that would go in here. I'll see how it goes. All right, so I have to confess, I cheated a little bit. I got to thinking about it, and I remembered that my good buddy Jim, from all the way back into episode 14, had given me a repair panel for the rear quarter. So I dug it out of a pile that I had. He gave it to me because he didn't like the way it fit, and I thought, well, I might use it. So I took it, but I found it, and I was hoping it was this side, but it actually wasn't. It's the other side. So what I decided to do was, if I go ahead and just cut the lip off of it, and I'm actually going to keep this because I might be able to weld it back on the other side, this would give me the shape just in reverse. So let me take it over to the car and show you how it actually lines up. So here's the panel. It actually gives me the right curve. Now I cut off the end way over here, and I'll show you why in just a second, but this actually gives me the right curve. And then what I did is I took it over to the vise over there and just kind of pounded it out to give it a little bit of a shape, the opposite direction, because it's got to line up with this curve right here. Now the reason I cut so much off of this, the edge panel, was because I started looking at it, and this actually matches this curvature right here. So I'll be able to use this piece, hopefully, to be able to create this curve right here, which is kind of a challenge to do. So I'm gonna hold on to this piece because I'm gonna use it later, hopefully. Okay, so my next step in this was to go ahead and get a guide piece for the way this shape is gonna be. Now, I've learned to basically not throw away anything until you're actually completely done. So this piece, if you look really closely, has little holes in it. This was the top part of the rear quarter panel I cut from the other side to trim it up to the right size. I had that little strip, I kept it, so it was perfect for this job. So I basically took this piece and took it to the other side to figure out what the shape of it was supposed to look like. And then I've tack welded it just to hold it in place, because now this is going to give me a guide for creating this piece. Now, I debated, like, do I just keep this and use this as the edge? But the hard part is, if I do that, this part would be actually a little bit too big. So I'm actually going to go on the inside. So all I'm going to do here is just get the complete shape so that I can start rounding this piece in to match. And then I'll put the lip on it. So, okay, so part of what I decided to do, and I'll try to explain it, is this panel has a curve to it when it comes to the top. It's not just a 90, it doesn't just come here and then stop. It's got kind of a curve to it. So I actually cut this panel short, so I'm on the inside of this curve. And then what I'm gonna try to do is bridge that with another piece. It's gonna be particularly challenging when you get back to here because the curve's gotta be right. I may put more, I've got a little bit of a crown on that panel, both going this way, but also going this way. So I'm gonna need to probably curve it just a little more up here at the top to get the angle going in the right direction. So I don't have any cool toys like English wheels and stuff like that. I wish I did, that would be cool, maybe someday. So basically what I've been doing is using this vice grip to get a little gap in it, and then just using the hammer if I want a bigger roll, a wider roll to it, I just open the vise up a little bit further. And it gives me, and you kind of see, gives you a roll if you want. So let's see if I can put a little curve in this. By just kind of moving it like this, it brings the crown so you can see where I was mainly focused is right here. It's got a little bit of a crown to it like this. It obviously needs to go way further down. If you look down the edge of it, it needs to curve way in, or you cut this piece short and you put the curve in it, because that's not even close to where I need it to be. So just keep working on it and see where it ends up. So I've been going at it all morning, and I'm gonna go ahead and take a break and be done for today. I'll show you how much I've gotten done so far. So here's, it looks uglier than it really is, but so here's my piece so far. This will get tacked out to here, and yeah, I went ahead and just go ahead and decided to go ahead and attach to this, and then I'll just cut it, and it'll come down to attach here, and it'll come down to attach here, because I can always kind of shave it off if I need to. But I know earlier I said that you really have to do the inside first. You have to install the inside first, but I really believe you've got to kind of make the outside panel, because that's going to give you a reference for what the inside is going to look like. So that's why I've been focusing on finishing this outside panel. So I've got it finished. Well, I'm not finished, but once I get it finished, then I'll be able to take it off and measure everything and fix that closeout panel. Not buying them, just making them yourself definitely saves you money, but it does not save you time. There's no way. I spent all day pretty much on this piece, and I'm still not finished, but it's been a fun challenge for sure. So the reason why these patch panels take so long is because you're starting with, you know, just a flat piece of metal, and not only do you have to curve it, you can see the crown going this way, but you also have to get the crown going this way in order for it to fit correctly. So I've just kind of learned you really have to start with a bigger piece of metal than you actually need, because when you start stretching it, putting that curve in it, it's gonna, you know, the distance is gonna get a little bit longer. So if you cut it too short, then you're basically having to start over. So I've just found it's easier to start with a bigger piece of metal, get one edge of it lined up. And for me, I got this edge lined up, and I'll show you over there in a second. I got this edge lined up, and then it's just a matter of keep cutting it and keep curving it until
until it actually lines up. So it takes a lot of trial and error and just keep taking it over, pounding on it with the ball peen hammer to stretch it to get it in the right spot. But I'm ready to go ahead and tack this one in. And then I've got one more little piece on that panel to put together, and I'll be able to take it off and start working on that closeout panel on the inside. So I just tack that piece in, and obviously I'll go along and weld all this together. It'll look ugly like this. And I've got to fix this got to put a little piece in here. But then I'll weld it all solid. I'll take the piece off and I'll weld the back side so that it gives me plenty to grind on. And then I'll grind it all smooth so that it's one piece that I can be able to install once I patch the closeout panel on the inside. So here's my finished piece. It's gonna go on here after I welded it from the front and back side and then ground it down. Now what I'm doing is I'm working on finishing out this closeout panel. And so I just took a piece of cardboard and basically traced it from the other side. That gave me a piece right here that I could weld in there. I almost overlapped it because I don't think you'll ever see it, but I decided not to do that just to make sure I got the distance and everything right. I did go ahead and rebuild this piece, and I know it looks ugly, but I made it longer than it needs to be. So now what I'm getting ready to do is go ahead and attach this top flange part that this will ultimately end up connecting to. So it's a long process, but right now I'm going to go ahead and clean this piece completely up on front and back so that I can take it off and put the lip on it, and then I'll weld it all in place, and that'll allow me to put this front panel that I've made on there. The closeout panel doesn't actually have to be perfect by any means because it's obviously going to get covered. You'll never see this side of it. I tried to make sure that I got this side the same. I haven't finished actually treating all of it, and I've got to manipulate it and put it into place for how it's going to match up to this panel that's going to have to get made for back here. But the panel that I fabricated will go on obviously once I get this all ready. I'm not going to attach it for now because I want to get this part finished. The part that's going to go right here, I want to get that part finished so that I know how the two things are actually going to come together. There's definitely been a learning curve to fabricating your own panels. It's not actually difficult, but it is very time consuming. So I'm going to stop for now. Watch the next episode because hopefully on that one I'll actually get these two pieces finished, and you can see how they actually go together to finish off this back piece before I move it into finishing this wheel well and the front part of this quarter panel. So that's coming on the next episode.